Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're exploring the ecosystem of frontier survival and the ultimate realization of the pioneer American dream. And we're going to do this not by looking at massive, sweeping historical trends, but through a totally fascinating micro-history of one single family. We're looking at the Vaux family, living in Wisconsin in the year 1865.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to imagine, for just a second, the sheer, unadulterated grit required to establish a life on the American frontier. Think about it. No power tools, no modern communication, just your own two hands, your family, and a plot of wild, untamed land. It's just a completely different world. So, let's see exactly what that 1865 American dream actually looked like on the ground.
Section 1. The Vaux Family Circle, Arriving at Stability. To really understand this era, we have to start with the people. By 1865, 49-year-old Samuel Vaux and 50-year-old Mary Ann were firmly rooted in Wisconsin. But, and this is wild, 28 years prior, in 1837, they made this harrowing, incredibly uncertain ocean crossing from Somerset, England as young immigrants. Fast forward to 1865, and they are prosperous landowners. Their three eldest daughters, Mary Almeida, Celia Ann, and Abigail, had all married local men, deeply weaving the Vaux name right into the local social fabric.
While those older daughters were off building their own households, back on the family farm, a real generational shift was underway. 18, that was the age of James P. Vaux in 1865. He was out there working shoulder to shoulder with his father as a full-time farm laborer. Meanwhile, his younger brother, 11-year-old Amos S. Vaux, had a slightly different role. He balanced his daily farm duties with attending the local school. So the farm required absolutely everyone's hands, but they were also investing heavily in the future. Which kind of begs the question, what exactly were those hands doing all day?
Section 2. Rhythms of Pioneer Farming. Working the rich prairie soil.
The whole foundation of their stability was their substantial land holdings in Section 29. But you have to know, this wasn't passive ownership. Over decades, Samuel developed this hard-earned partnership with the rich Wisconsin prairie soil. Farming back then was entirely dictated by a brutally unforgiving seasonal rhythm. And this brilliantly illustrates the grind. In the spring, Samuel and James exhausted themselves plowing and planting wheat, corn, and oats. By late summer, it was an all-hands-on-deck, frantic sprint to reap those tall crops. And then in autumn, we see something absolutely vital: community threshing exchanges. Samuel would help his neighbors harvest, and they would turn around and help him. This deep connection to the soil directly created a lifeline connection to their neighbors.
Section 3. Mary Ann's vital role, the household engine.
Right here is where we need to completely dismantle the myth of the lone, rugged male pioneer. Honestly, if Samuel was the plow, Mary Ann was the engine. Samuel's heavy field labor was highly specialized, sure, but Mary Ann's work was this incredibly diverse dawn-to-dusk system of economic management. Let's be real, without her side of the equation, the family would have starved or gone totally bankrupt long before harvest time.
Just listen to this daily schedule. It's staggering. She managed a massive kitchen garden. She did all the canning, pickling, and root cellar storage so they wouldn't, starve during the brutal Wisconsin winters. She managed the dairy, milking cows and churning butter and cheese for market trade. She kept the poultry yard humming with chickens, ducks, and geese. On top of that, she cooked 3 huge meals a day, not just for her family, but for the hired hands, too. Oh, and she also managed the household finances and accounts, directed the daughters, and somehow still found time to make and mend the family's clothing. Seriously, reading her schedule makes me tired just thinking about it. She wasn't a helper, she was the absolute backbone of the Vaux family enterprise.
Section 4. Frontier Education and Learning, Reading and Ciphering.
So, with the farm functioning through this incredible partnership, the Vaux family could turn their dedication to the future. Picture this sensory scene with me. It's a crisp, fair-weather morning. 11-year-old Amos and the neighboring farm kids are walking down dirt roads, clutching basic primers and slate tablets. They arrive at a simple, one-room wooden schoolhouse with a little bell on top. Inside, you've got a single young, unmarried female teacher trying to manage students of all different ages and abilities in one room, drilling them in reading, writing, arithmetic, and moral instruction.
And this brings us to a really touching piece of the source material. It notes, Samuel was proud that his son was learning to read and cipher. Just think about the profound emotional pride of a father who crossed an ocean in steerage, now watching his own son gain the tools to unlock a totally different future. And learning definitely didn't stop at the schoolhouse door. When those married daughters brought their kids over, Mary Ann was right there at the farmhouse tutoring or visiting grandchildren to make sure they had their lessons down. Literacy had immediate, real-world power for this family. Because the older daughters could read and write, they were the ones keeping those vital household accounts and writing letters to distant relatives. In the evenings, the whole family would gather around, and whoever was literate would read aloud from newspapers or books. It's the simple, cozy act of evening reading that kept this isolated farm household firmly plugged into national and world events.
Section 5. Community, Faith, and Leisure. The Pioneer's Safety Net.
Now, let's zoom out a bit. How did a single family actually survive the really bad times? Crop failures, sudden illnesses, or those harsh winters? Well, they relied on a robust pioneer safety net, and the absolute center of that net was the local wooden church. But you've got to understand, it wasn't just a religious center. Multiple denominations actually shared this building because it was the ultimate communication hub of the era. It was the place you went for news, for local gossip, for advice. And crucially, in 1865, it was where you went for anxious, hushed discussions about the ongoing Civil War, as everyone waited for news of relatives who had marched off to fight.
This deep community connection translated directly into a highly organized system of mutual aid. When you see social gatherings from this era, you have to realize they were actually emergency response networks in disguise. Step 1, barn raisings. You literally couldn't build that heavy infrastructure alone. Step 2, harvest assistance. Beating the frost required a localized army of neighbors. Step 3, quilting bees. Mary Ann and her daughters didn't just gather to chat. They were mass-producing essential winter bedding for community members who might be facing hardship. This was survival through pure solidarity.
But hey, it wasn't all just grueling work and existential anxiety. As the harsh winter set in and the farm work finally slowed down, the Vaux farmhouse became this warm hub of joy and leisure. They'd gather for massive feasts on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Independence Day. You can almost picture the parlor, lit by the fireplace, Samuel completely captivating his grandchildren with storytelling about the old days back in Somerset and that terrifying 1837 ocean crossing. The whole house would ring with Mary Ann and the girls singing hymns and folk songs, while the kids played tag and ran races out in the frozen farmyard. It's just a beautiful contrast to their grueling summer labor.
Finally, Section 6, A Settled Pioneer Life, The Legacy of 1865.
So the crucial point is this. Look at the legacy of the Vaux family by the year 1865. When Samuel, now in his late 40s, looked out over his land, he saw a real legacy. The Vaux family name was highly respected throughout Dodge County. That elusive American dream they chased across the Atlantic 28 years earlier, it had been substantially realized. But it wasn't achieved through mere luck. No way. It was forged through relentless, backbreaking work, an unyielding partnership between husband and wife, and a deep, mutual reliance on their neighbors.
And that leaves us with a pretty massive question to ponder today. The Vaux family conquered their frontier because they fundamentally understood that true prosperity is a shared endeavor. They relied on mutual aid, family partnership, and physical, face-to-face community. So as you look around at our modern world with all its amazing conveniences, I want to ask you, what constitutes a safety net today? What is the true foundation of our own prosperity? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.